Jeffrey's Cave is located in the Spittle Pond Nature Reserve to the west of the historic site of Spanish Rock. It's named for a young slave who ran away from his owner and remained free for several days by hiding in this area. Despite an intensive search, Jeffrey could not be found, and the search was abandoned when it was concluded that he had left Bermuda on a sailing vessel. Over a month later, his master noticed that on several occasions, one of his slaves, a 15-year-old girl, disappeared at sunset with a package under her arm. The suspicious slave owner followed her to this area on the south shore near Spittle Pond. The next day, the slave master returned with a friend to search the vicinity and found Jeffrey hiding in the cave, which now bears his name. Those found guilty of serious crimes, such as plotting to escape from slavery, murder, or rebellion, were executed in highly visible places. The execution and display of slaves' dismembered bodies took place at Somerset Bridge, Cobbler's Island in Spanish Point, Stocks Point in St. George's, and this island, which is at the entrance of Flet's Inlet. In 1754, a slave named Quash was sentenced to be executed on Gibbet's Island. However, local legend suggests that Quash was tightly bound and hung in chains on the island. After eating the flesh off his arms in desperation, he finally died of starvation. Quash's chains were still visible as late as 1898. The gruesome practice of dismembering and displaying the bodies of executed slaves was meant to serve as a warning to other slaves who might rebel or try to escape from bondage. Religion has always played an important part in the lives of Black Bermudians. However, Blacks have experienced many difficulties in finding a place to freely worship. In many cases, slaves were forced to meet in the woods or in caves to hold a worship service. In the 1800s, a group of free Blacks and slaves, under the leadership of Edward Fraser, set out to build their own place of worship in Warwick. After several years of working in their free time, and very often at night, the church was completed in 1827. The lane where the church is located has been named Moonlight Lane in commemoration of the many nights spent building the church by moonlight. Cobbs Hill Methodist Church was dedicated on November 17, 1827, and stands as a monument to the determination of Black Bermudians to worship as they wish in a church of their own. One of the many fascinating sights on the trail is Barrs Bay, the landing site of the slave ship, the Enterprise, in the 1800s. In 1835, the Enterprise was carrying 78 slaves from Virginia to South Carolina when it was blown off course by an Atlantic storm and was forced to put into Bermuda for provisions. As slavery had been abolished in Bermuda in August of the previous year, local customs officials refused to let the ship set sail until a ruling was made on the status of the slaves on board. Bermudians, including newly freed slaves, took up the cause of their enslaved brethren, and through the Young Men's Friendly Lodge, obtained a writ of habeas corpus from the chief magistrate. The American slaves landed here at Barrs Bay, where they were welcomed by a large crowd of local supporters. The 78 slaves appeared before the Chief Justice and were given the option of continuing on to Charleston or remaining here in Bermuda as free citizens. All but one woman and her 5 children chose freedom. The Bermuda Friendly Societies were instrumental in helping the former slaves to integrate into the Bermuda community and to start new lives amongst the Bermudians whose concern and intervention had changed their lives forever. The exhibit on slavery here at Commissioner's House interprets the transatlantic slave trade and its dramatic impact on Bermuda's history and culture. The exhibit includes facts and figures about slavery and artifacts such as weapons, shackles and restraints, cowrie shells, and glass beads. Artifacts recovered from archaeological excavations and the shipwrecks that surround the island are also an important part of the display. These fascinating exhibits eloquently tell the story of the lives of slaves and the effect that slavery had on Bermuda's economy and the island's way of life. Anyone who has an interest in the horrors and the triumphs of slavery in Bermuda should visit the slavery exhibit in the Commissioner's House at the Bermuda Maritime Museum in Dockyard. The Bermuda Department of Tourism has created the African Diaspora Heritage Trail brochure, which is an attractive and informative guide to the African Diaspora Heritage Trail.